Episode number 53 with Carlos Welch. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
And this is Mike Snyderman, more or less.
More or less.
I'm here and I'm not here, Steve.
Oh, are you here in spirit? Or
I'm in the mood to be philosophical here.
Oh, really? No, this should be interesting.
I'm so worn down by the fact that we are out of fresh ideas that we're bringing what's-his-name back again. I'm ashamed, Steve. Just edit this part here. Edit this part out where I'm going to talk about. Let's be honest here. This is like Golden Girls season 17. Just trying to come up with any storyline. Let's just use an old one and just hope no one notices. Let's be courteous though. He's nice to come back on the show.
Oh yeah, I love having him on.
Like
yeah.
our failures we should not take out on him. But
well, actually, I got some big news here, Mike.
Okay,
and it revolves around our success. After a year of putting out episodes, the podcast is finally in the green. It's not costing me any money every month anymore. We finally had some affiliate sponsorship stuff come in, so this is cool. It's not. Wow. Yeah, I'm excited. This is really cool, and I just want to throw a thank you out there to everyone that's supporting the podcast. By we've had a bunch of guys join TPE and get the Elliott Row tapes and all that, and we wouldn't sponsor them if we didn't really believe in them, and it's cool that you guys are doing it. So. Thank you. We appreciate it.
That's pretty groovy.
It is.
Of course, I don't give a flying fuck. It's not my money you were spending, but hey, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, it was cool. But so how'd your little run at the Commerce go?
At the bike.
Oh, I'm sorry, at the bike.
I quickly amended that plan, which was to go up there and grind hard. And like I said, last year I made the same goal, go up and win the series, and I final tabled the first two events and then just bricked out. And this time I bricked the first two tournaments, and I got sick of driving to LA, and I said, plus I got a lot of shit to take care of here. I still got to get organized in my new place, my new residence, and other stuff. So I decided I'm done with the thing until this weekend. I'm going to go back for the main event. So
Okay.
I've been actually grinding. I had a couple cash sessions. I had kind of an old school one yesterday. I grinded for about 17 straight hours.
Wow.
And started at like 1 in the afternoon. So I figured out I'll get a quick lunch before going home, and then left at about 6 in the morning or so.
Was that like the one? I think it was like our third or fourth podcast. It was a 22-hour session. Was it kind of like that?
Well, that was nothing. I had a couple, 30-hour plus sessions. So, but yeah, it was a little like that. Although this one was fueled, I think, by some pragmatic choices about like the game was just too good to leave. And, that's what I felt. I was stuck a buy-in, and I battled my way back. And, at some point was up about 1,500. And then finally, I went down a little bit. So I left not up very much, but the game was really good. You had a couple guys, and there's just not a lot of good games there. All the regs are complaining.
Okay.
That it's just so pro heavy, and even the regular casual players are usually tight. You just have to best hand them to. They're not gonna go nuts on you.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I had the greatest bit of information ever, though. The last couple times I was there, and this made me very happy. You've been hearing about my bad beats. 2 separate guys said, "I've never seen anyone run as bad as you here."
And how did that make you feel?
I feel like my whining is justified. I open up and I'm honest about the hands that I just horribly misplayed.
Yeah.
But like of every bad beat I tell you, there's like 3 times. I mean, it really is just like I've said before, like every like big equity pot. If I'm getting it in 50-50 or whatever, I'm winning like 10 to 15%. And that's but the one of the more successful pros there, we've never really talked too much, kind of casually, but we were sitting next to each other talking the other night. He's like, man, you run somebody had gotten it all in with queens against jacks, a huge $4,000 pot. Got it on the flop. The guy with jacks tanked and finally called and got hit a jack on the river. And like I wasn't even like out of the blue. He's like, "That's a mic pot right there. You've been losing those for a year, right?" And then some other guy was talking about someone run good, and he's like, "He's running better than Mike's running bad here," because again, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, what was the one yesterday? I can't remember. Oh, I was down right away at 1,500 when the guy went all in, called my all in pre-flop with Jack 9, hit a full house against my ace queen. When I'm saying the games are bad, there's still some action there. Obviously.
Okay, yeah, there's some money to be made.
Yeah, but okay. And anyways, and then the very next night, or maybe it was the previous night, another guy made the same thing. I had like I showed my kings have been cracked for like the 14th umpteenth time or whatever, and some guy's like, "Geez, man, you run worse than anyone here." Separate guy, separate conversation. So it's like, I mean, maybe it's just they're absorbing all my whining into thinking that he has a reason to whine. But anyways,
that could be part of it.
Well, yeah, of course.
When you put that vibe out there, people eventually bite.
Steve, relax here, okay? I defer to you as a pickup artist. In no other manner do I want your advice.
I missed you, Mike. It's been too long. It's been a week. Well, should
you with Carlos? Hopefully, he's got some good stuff to talk about here.
He was.
I know he just went to. What did he just do? He went to
Harrahs,
he just went to Circuit Stop. So right. Yeah. I mean, there's only so many times we can ask about sleeping bathroom arrangements for the man, but doesn't intrigue me. Whenever I see a homeless guy in the street, I'm like, how does he make it through the day? And I say, could you please get out the way of my fucking car, dude? I have to move on here. So, but there is a flash of empathy. So.
Lasts about half a second, then it's gone.
It's not an enduring thing for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't remember what we talked about last week, that I got my job back at the post office after all this battle, but I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm officially signing my resignation form.
Are you really? Now, are you going to get any kind of severance or retirement, anything, or?
No, I got nothing. I have nothing but the shame of a poorly managed life here. But no, it should be. That'll be it. Then I'm on my own.
Okay. How do you feel? Do you feel relieved? Does it feel good? Like, what do you feel like?
Well, the decision is over, at least, right? I no longer have to stress about that, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So what else is going on with you, Stevie? How's the? You haven't been grinding much still, right?
No, I've been getting ready for this interview. I got an interview here in a couple of days, and just been researching that and learning about the department. And let's see, what else have I done? My wife's leaving for a month to Colombia. She's going down there for Christmas to visit her family, and so been getting all her stuff ready for that. Getting the Amazon and eBay business dialed in and everything mailed off before she leaves, because I have absolutely no clue how to process that stuff on the computer. So I can go and get it. I just don't know what to do with it after that. It's just going to sit in the house. So getting all that stuff squared away, and then I think for this next month, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm really going to put in the hours and play some cards. That's going to be cool. I'll have the house to myself. Well, me and Mr. Kicks, we'll have the house to ourselves, and I'm just going to put in some.
That's your cat's name, Mr. Kicks?
Mr. Kicks, yes.
It's not Kicks for short. No, it's Mr. Kicks.
Mr. Kicks, or in Spanish, it's Senor Kicks.
Okie doke.
Yes. He's pretty much all gray, and he has like these he has these four white paws, so they look like little shoes. So Mr. Kicks.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a cool cat. We had a party here. My wife's birthday was the other day. We had a party here, and one of my friends brought their kids. And the first thing, this cute little girl runs in, and she goes, "Kitty!" Runs over to him and is holding him like a suitcase for the next hour. I'm like, oh man. Finally, I opened the door for the cat, and I'm like, "You want to go outside?" Boy, he just ran outside. We didn't see him again until 3 a.m. He'd had it up.
So that's good. You're going to get back to, how's your graph look these days, Steve? You got to get back to work on that if you want some investors for next year, right?
I know, I do. I'm hoping this next month I can really put in the time and put in the hours, because I'm going to have the time off to do it. So that'll be good. That'll be good. I haven't looked at my graph probably in since the last time we pulled it up. So it had shot up pretty good, and then it was kind of flat lined and then down a little bit. I know over the last, I know I lost last month. I think it was just a few $100, but yeah, I need to get back into the grind. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Since it's the as we get, well, maybe next week as we get close to the new year, we can have our discussion of the new year, the next year's poker goals.
Yeah.
I was thinking quickly. I do want to somehow spend a lot of time in Vegas and have a good piece of myself next summer, and I want to get high with Daryl Jace if he comes into town.
Nice.
I just want to hear that guy talk about life and stuff. I think that would be offensive.
That would be interesting.
I want to. What else do I want to do? I want to abandon market a strip club somehow. Not only go with him, but like leave him there in some sort of serious peril.
With like 4 bouncers just angry at him.
Steal his wallet. Walk out of the place.
That would be fun.
The heart smacking the ass to some stripper. Mark, what are you doing? And run out of there with his wallet. See what happens.
That would be good.
I think I want my picture taken with Anna Kate too next summer, and it's not going to be one of these. Let's just some selfie with some random guy. It's going to be like her sitting next to me and like laughing uproariously with her hand on my knee. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't care if we have to sit there for 17 hours and hire a director and a professional photographer, and she's going to get it right. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to happen. Yeah.
There's got to be some sense of intimacy there.
Yeah.
So other than that, and win a bracelet, of course, but that's the extent of my goals. I don't know which they're all good ones, I think.
No, I think they're all wonderful. You have to aim high, man. Go for it. Technically,
you could compress those all into one night too. Just get it out of the way, and the whole summer's a victory, right?
You probably could, yeah. Then after that, everything's icing on the cake. You can do whatever you want.
I like you, Steve.
Yeah. I was speaking of Mark. I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, man, I just haven't been playing. I said, I've just been moving, and my life has just been chaos for the last month. And he's like, dude, I'm in the same boat. He's like, I just bought a house, and it was hell getting the loan, because I'm I'm a professional online multi-table tournament player. Like, how do you justify, like, 1 month I lose 30 grand, the next month I win 50? Like, it just goes up and down and up and down. And I'm like, oh, it's got to be tough. He had to put down 25% on his house.
Yeah, it's funny because
to qualify for the loan. But he got it. He's living in Marin County now. He says it's a really nice place, and so that's cool.
Do we have Mark's bank accounts? Do we want to discuss his personal finances in any greater detail?
No, that's probably not.
Oh, okay. No, it's funny. I had the same conversation with a guy at the casino because I heard about Mark's thing, and I'm like, what was it? Was it difficult getting your house? He's like, I had to put 30% down. Yeah. So I guess it's similar thing when a professional gambler is what is on your tax return.
Yeah. Yeah. The banks frown on
that. Should we just get Carlos on here? I mean, give me a second here to gather my thoughts and just take a deep sigh.
Okay.
Just hopefully this won't be too painful. This is like the shot at the doctor's office, right? It's only going to hurt a minute.
It'll only hurt for a sec, yeah.
And so, yeah. So hopefully this will hurt just for the first 15 seconds, and then the numbness will carry over, and we'll survive.
Okay.
Carlos is my favorite, of course.
Homeless poker player. I had to call.
That's what it says on your Skype, homeless poker player. You don't even have the kid's name.
Yeah, so how you been? Congrats on bagging, but that's a bummer.
Congrats on bagging.
Well, he bagged day one.
We don't get credit for that shit. The man cashed in the main event here.
Yeah, that's how I feel now.
He doesn't gas up the Nitmobile and drive a few hundred miles unless it's for some success.
Yeah, a year ago bagging would have been a big deal, but
not so much anymore.
No. It just took long. I just spent way more time losing.
Yeah. Well, how far along did you get? You played the main event, right? You played the 1675.
Well, we should let people. Carlos went to the Cherokee circuit stop.
Yeah.
And
Right.
We follow him on Twitter, so of course we know exactly where he was. But
Yeah, so I went to Cherokee and I played the 1675 main event.
Nice. And do you have all of yourself in that, or were you backed? Or
I sold pieces.
okay,
Had about 40%.
okay, cool.
the funny thing is, I was loving following your tweets, and you can see not just you, but everyone who's probably a pretty good online player, their relationship with live poker. Like you're building a stack, and all of a sudden you were kind of riding the short stack, then you had a rush, and you can tell you're getting excited for live poker, and then you bust. You're like, I'm through with this shit. I can't wait to go back to Georgia and play Bovada again. Is that kind of pretty much your experience?
No, I'm never excited for live poker. I always hate it.
Okay.
But
it sounded like you were getting excited there. I don't know.
I mean, I guess anytime you're a short stack for hours and hours and you finally get, a double up or two, that's going to be exciting, but playing with other humans still suck. I'd much rather double up twice online than live. Although live is way more profitable. So I guess in the sense it's almost like, to me, live feels like a job, something that I'm doing and not enjoying, but it's so profitable that it's hard not to do it.
So how'd you go into, weren't you get excited unbagging chips day 2?
That's
kind of fun, isn't it? I've always said that was my favorite part, is unbagging chips is the best part of live poker.
Yeah, you dump them on the table, then you got to sort all the colors and.
Unbagging. Okay, unbagging them. No, I didn't.
No, don't give a shit. Okay.
I mean, I don't unbag the same size stacks that you unbag, so it makes a difference.
I got you.
I just cut off a little corner and dump out 5 chips and go ahead and punt them off to somebody.
Okay. All you need is black beans and Bovada to make you happy.
Some of your tournaments, I think some of your tournaments you bag, they give you like 2 bags to hold all your chips.
I wish. So how is your day 2 table? Are you do you get online and hand in everyone and try to see if you're with any wizards?
Yeah, so I did that, and there were no wizards. There was one guy that had some potential, and it was pretty set up okay for me, where all the big aggressive stacks with experienced guys are on my right, and all the recreational players were on my left, and a really short stack was on my direct left. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, I was pretty excited for that table.
Yeah.
So how long did you make it to day 2? What was your story there?
Well, so I do all this research the night before, and for those that don't know, well, first off, I went to Cherokee with the intention of playing single table satellites, and so I played the first couple of those, and they were some of the softest single table satellites I've ever played in my life. It was like so many people were making mistakes, and I'll say at least 80 to 90% of them, I was easily the best player at the table in terms of sit and go strategy. Now, some of them may have been better cash game players or tournament players, but they were using those strategies in a short stack situation, and especially with no antes, and they just were making a ton of mistakes.
Yeah. You mean not knowing their shoving and calling ranges? Or?
Right. Set mining from like 20 bigs and stuff like that.
Okay.
So after going 0 for 16 in those.
Oof.
God. What were the buy-ins?
125s, and I was usually doing like $100 last longer, heads up with one guy, plus like a $20 last longer on top of it with the whole table. So I was playing like $245 on at least half of them. Wow. So, and just, losing in really, really crazy spots where get it in with the nuts on the turn and like the nuts straight, and then they run out of flush or a boat. And so like a bunch of situations like that. So that was brutal. I finally chopped one, the 17th one I chopped. And then I played one more after that, which by this time it was like the day one of the main event. And some good players that started coming into town. And I recognized a few people at the last sit and go I played. One guy was a bracelet winner, and one guy was a sit and go specialist who I played with in the past, where I kind of feel like I know him, but he doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, now the sit and goes have gotten, I was not having good results in them even when they were soft. Now they've gotten tougher. I'm done with the sit and goes. And one of the guys who I met out there, I met a lot of really good players in Cherokee. And one of the guys I met said that, I really should play the main event because it's, pretty soft. So I had no intention on playing it, but somebody suggested it. And so I saw action and got into it. And day one was really just like, I think my day one table was pretty tough, like a bunch of, two really aggressive players. Mm-hmm. And basically just trying to deal with that all day. I was pretty much short stacked for the most part. I never got into a point where I had a stack and an opportunity to go after the weak players, because in this case, like I mentioned earlier, when the aggressive players are on your right and your short stack, it's perfect because you can just, come over the top of them.
Sure.
But my problem is something that I've learned after this event is that when the aggressive players on my right and I'm not short stack, now it's like I'm not. I got to get more comfortable with taking the fight to them. Like they basically force you to either fold and allow them to attack the weaker players on your left, or they force you to gamble. And as far as 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet bluffing and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't have a hand, you either got to fold or you got to kind of, widen your value range more than I'm comfortable doing at this point. Right. So that's what I'm going to be working on in December. But long story short, that's basically what happened, because I didn't, get into a lot of, I've heard somebody call them X-bet wars. I didn't get into a lot of X-bet wars with these guys. I ended up, dwindling down. And once I got into a short stack where I was comfortable with, it was no problem. And so this is when they open, then I may shove and get it through, or maybe I'll shove and they call and then I win. And then I get to double up and then talk about it on Twitter. So maybe that was the excitement that you heard, okay. Was, me not having chips for so long and then finally getting a spot to attack these guys who are playing down there any two cards. So that's, I basically, survived day one that way. And then
strategically, actually, this would be a good part to start, because that's interesting. I'm sure you have the same thing online with if you have the tough guy, where I'll get in that, where you're pissing match back and forth, 40, 50, 60 big blinds. And all of a sudden it moves pretty quickly and you're all down to 25 big blinds. And I'm like, thank God, this is very simple now.
Yeah.
I know my exact ranges of what I'll be 3-betting, calling, 3-bet folding, ripping, that kind of stuff. So, but in live poker moves a little slower. So yeah, there is some tougher decisions there for sure.
Right. And so I'd been there at this point for 10 days. Now, for those that don't know, I stayed in my van the entire time.
Wow.
So actually not the entire time. I stayed in my van for a couple of days, and the first Sunday, I drove over to Asheville where the internet was better, and I got a hotel room so I could grind online. And then I came back for a few more days. But what I'm getting at is the night after before day two, I had no clothes left. I didn't. I hadn't done laundry, and I thought that day two was going to start pretty early, and I wouldn't have time to get up and do laundry. So I actually drove to a Walmart and bought some some pants to wear for the event. And so I drive by these pants. I come back. Some fucking guy in a monster truck in the parking deck, gets real close to me, and I swerve and I bang the side of a fucking wall
Oh,
in the
Oh, I
in
saw that.
the
Yeah.
parking deck. These monster trucks, like these parking decks, are not built for big trucks like that. But
no.
anyway, so I go to Walmart, get the pants, wreck the fucking van, and then I go back up to do my research on the players before the players that I'm gonna have on day two. And I got this whole game plan set in my mind. And so right away, I think the second hand, like I said, I came in with about 30 bigs. And the guy on my left was a short stack. He had 7 bigs. And the second hand I played, I opened ace-10 suited, and he shoved on me with pocket fours and one. So they got me down to 23 bigs, and then went through the blinds once. But during this whole time of going through the blinds, I got reads in my mind based on appearance and based on past results. So I kind of feel like I think I know what they're going to do. And then that first orbit, I can see, okay, they are doing the things that I expect. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, perfect. I pretty much know my exact game plan. And there was the one guy who I said had some potential to be, a good player. He was pretty aggressive,
Yeah.
with a big stack on my right. And I saw him open 8-5 suited from under the gun at one point.
Oh, that's a green light.
Right, exactly.
That's a green light. You'd love to see that.
I lost that flip, and I want to say maybe I lost some other hand that was pretty small, or maybe I just went through the blinds or something. But anyway, it got to a point where I was down to about 16, 17 bigs as it was coming around to my next big blind. And so in my mind, I'm already thinking, this guy opens on my big blind, I'm shoving any 2 cards. Like I'd already decided on that. And I felt like it was such a super spot because I feel like this guy was probably raising like 80% of hands and would only call a shove with like 20. And I think that is like I have to do the math on it, but to me that seems like a profitable spot with any 2 cards.
That sounds right. I don't know. I'd have to get Jacob in here, but that sounds pretty accurate.
I wonder if you could angle people at the table to make them kind of adjust the way they view your range by telling them where you slept the night before. God, my back hurts. Do you guys? How comfortable are your vans? And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Wait a second. You guys can afford a hotel room? What are you, fucking Donald Trump?
Right.
Sit there rubbing your back. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, maybe that would work. but in my mind, I'm thinking like this guy. If this guy's opening 8-5 suited under the gun, what do you think he's opening from like the cutoff of the button? Like he's not folding many hands at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm all mentally prepared to shove on this guy, and then the hand before my big blind, the table breaks. And that tilted me more than it should have.
Right.
I was like, because I was so prepared, I studied all night, I had my reads, and I had the perfect spot coming up. Now I'm going into a situation where I don't know these people. I haven't seen them play hands for an orbit like I did with the first table. Like now, at the time where I need reads the most, I don't have any. And that was tilting. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation before, but that's
frustrating. You're at the perfect table. You're like, this is awesome. I got a read on everybody. And then boom, now you're off to a new one.
Right.
I can resonate with that. Yeah.
So I get to this new table and I have about 16, 17 bigs or whatever. And at this point, we're at 1,500, 300, I believe. That might be, I think that's right.
Wait, 1,500, 300? You mean like 150, 300 or?
I'm sorry, 1,500, 3,000.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong though, but whatever it was, I had
1,200, 2,400. It's got to be, it's got to be up there at this point. Yeah.
Like 16, 17 bigs. And I came in behind the button. So I got a chance to see a few hands, but I didn't get a chance to see the villain on my right was a big stack, aggressive looking guy. And I didn't get a chance to see any late position hands from him because I guess a few, like maybe the first hand or two I got at the table. But other than that, he was either middle position or under the gun or early position. But I did notice, like every other table I've been at in this tournament, is that it very rarely folded around to me in late position. Like there was usually, like I told you, my day one table was really aggressive with guys on my right, and it never folded around. And so I kind of felt like
no one ever got a walk. You mean is
right? I mean, no walk, and like like there were very few hands where it was where I was able to be first to act, except for when I was like under the gun in early position.
Yeah.
So I felt like the same thing was going to happen here. And what screwed me up this time is that with my 16 bigs, at whatever level we were at, I saw that there were 5 minutes left in the level. And so by the time I got back around to the big blind again, the levels would have gone up.
And then you'd be down to 12 or 11 big blinds or something.
Right. 12 is what I figured.
Sounds like you're setting up a story where we're supposed to agree with your Jack Deuce shove that's coming up for all these different factors. If you pulled a mic here, just say I pulled a mic.
Jack Deuce is.
No, I'm just. No, I know you're.
Hey, I'm not such a fish that I would shove Jack Deuce. It was Queen 3.
Okay, that's much better.
So what happens is it falls around to my big blind, and a big stack on the right opens, and I think about the fact that if I go through this big blind without winning the pot, at the next orbit, when the blinds go up, I'm going to be down to 12, at which point I have no fold equity on the reshove. And also, you have fold equity on the open shove, but that only matters if it folds around to you. If it never folds around to you, then, I mean, I guess you can shove 12 bigs from under the gun, but you need some sort of a hand to do that.
Yeah, you need something. Yeah.
Right. So, but in this spot, I'm thinking, okay, aggressive big stack, check. He's in a small blind, check. We're on the bubble of a pretty big tournament where he should be, trying to bully the bubble, check. And I'm thinking, like, I don't have the same reads as I had at the other table, but just in a vacuum, this seems like a spot where I can reship wide. And I shove.
Well, let me ask you this. What did he open? Did he min raise? Did he open to 6,000 or did he make it like 85 or what?
He made it like 2.5. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it wasn't a min raise and it wasn't like a huge bet.
Yeah, okay.
And so I shoved and he had ace queen and that's how I busted. And so I'm going to talk with a friend tomorrow and do some numbers on it. I think that it is a spot for sure that he will be opening wide, which means it's a spot that I should be shoving wide. But I think pretty much everybody I've talked to agreed, just not that wide.
Yeah.
like queen 7 off, queen 8 off may be okay.
I was going to say queen 7 off sounds okay to me, but queen 3 is a little, I don't know.
Queen 3 is pulling the mic. I think I pulled the mic.
I think a little bit. Yeah, that might have been a Rose's hand. Yeah. And now queen 3 suited.
I'm still here, by the way.
Yeah,
I was thinking maybe queen 5 suited, queen 4 suited, queen 3 suited. It seems a little weak. And then queen 7 off. I think I might run that with 16 bigs. I tried not to become, and I know it's tough because you look up at the clock and you're like, okay, in 2 hands, I'm going to be down to 12 bigs. But it's almost like you have to take each hand by itself in a single vacuum, instead of at that moment in time, you had 16 bigs,
Yeah, that's something. I think what I did is put too much emphasis on the preserving full equity, and just after the fact talking to some pretty good players, I learned something that I didn't realize about poker, and that's why I'm going to spend a lot of time this month studying, because I learned, like, there were some pretty good players that had they told me this a week ago or like before this happened, I'll be like, no way that could be right. But it makes sense, I guess. And that's like, sometimes if you're in spots like that and you're just not getting hands, you're not getting spots to open, sometimes you're just supposed to blind off.
Really?
And I would have never, like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, do whatever it takes to not blind off. But if you're getting like 3 deuce off and 5 deuce off, shit like that, at the time when you need hands, like you just can't shove them. I mean, you can't do anything with it. And I guess that makes sense. They know better than I do, but
I don't know if I would never express it as you should blind off. I would say you've got enough time to wait for something better than Queen 3. You know what I mean? It's not like it's an online tournament. You could.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Did they actually use that expression? Just blind off if you have to wait for something better?
The expression, you know what?
That just sounds counterintuitive to put it that way. But
I think the way I put it reflects how salty I feel about the situation. but it does mean pretty much the same thing, and I'm trying to.
Maybe it means that, like, if that's not a good spot, then just don't take it. And the result in the long run or the result of that tournament may be that you end up blinding down to 5 big blinds, and until you finally do get a good spot.
I guess what I'm saying is the whole idea of waiting for hands, even in spots where you're losing fold equity, that's new for me. And it's so confusing because there's other times where guys have talked to me about being too nitty and being too concerned about waiting for hands and missing spots. Yeah. And so this is like the opposite and extreme of that.
Right.
Yeah, no, I was in the same boat with you up until 5 minutes ago. I've never really heard that. I almost would rather take a negative EV spot with 12 or 15 bigs than I would waiting for a plus EV spot with 7,
See that, and that's kind of how I feel. I felt like if this guy's opening as wide as he should be, I do get him to fold a good number of hands if I do it now with 16 bigs. But if I wait until my next big blind and do it with 12, I'm more likely to get called.
Yeah.
The other thing is, even in a 1675, maybe it's probably a little better than some of these sit and goes you're describing, where the people are still probably, half of them are still totally ignorant of stack sizes and ranges.
That's true.
So, I mean, for all you know, even 9 big blinds, you might have somebody will open ace rag from the button, and you still got fold equity without even, or conversely, you could shove your 12 big blinds with pocket 8s, and someone's calling with their jack 7 suited they opened with or something kind of thing. So,
okay, so I got this. I pulled this up, so you can tell me if I'm misconstruing it too much. It says sometimes you just got to play your spots. You can't make something out of nothing. There's no magic. Sometimes you blind down. Sometimes you blind down. Sometimes you don't. So to me that means, hey, sometimes you just got to blind down.
Right. And I agree. Well, you're looking for plus EV.
Right. And
for sure. And sometimes, I agree with that. Sometimes I've sat there and passed on some spots with 18 big blinds, and then finally the problem is you get 7 big blinds and you get your 10s and you run into ace king or whatever it is. But yeah, no, I agree with that. The
way he worded it sounded.
But yeah, sometimes you have no other option other than blinding down. It's not a strategy. Yeah. But,
that's what I mean. So like the way I word it is the way somebody who would word it if they just fucked up a main event.
Right.
The way he worded it is somebody who's coaching somebody who just fucked up a main event day too. But technically it means the same thing, I think. But to me, the most important part of what he told me was the next sentence, which is look to find more and better spots before you get to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And see,
You want to maintain that 50 big blind stack throughout instead of being caught in these
right and
tough 17 big blind stack. Yeah.
Right. And in order to do that, you got to be willing to gamble when you have aggressive players on your right who are raising and four betting super wide ranges.
Yeah.
And that's what screwed me up in this tournament is like, I wasn't willing to gamble for my stack when I had 40 or 50 bigs, but that caused me to get down to 16 bigs in a spot where I was too willing to gamble with the stack.
Yeah.
That's always a sign of, in my mind, of kind of a weaker player where it's like, well, I mean, I always talk about my bust out hands too, but there's probably, when someone talks about losing that flip when they had 20 big blinds, there's probably a spot they passed up when they had 30. Where they didn't have the heart to make a call or didn't have the poise to make a fold, whatever. Which when that big flip came, they would have had the person covered and they wouldn't have been busting out. So
yeah.
I definitely had a hand on day one where I didn't make an obvious play, an obvious light 3-bet, because I thought that it would be so obvious that this aggressive player would 4-bet, and I didn't want to deal with the 4-bet with such a marginal hand, and so I just passed on the situation altogether. And that's the spot that I go back to, and I'm thinking maybe better players are gambling in this spot as opposed to the spot that I busted in.
That's interesting. What was it?
So the guy opens like middle position, and I'm on the button.
Okay.
And a guy flats in the cutoff. And again, I have like 40 bigs with ace-9 off. Now, when an aggressive player is opening, to me, that seems like an obvious 3-bet with that particular hand. But what worried me is that it looks like an obvious squeeze spot when you're on the button. And I'm thinking like this particular player struck me as a type that wouldn't fold to the 3-bet. He could either call or 4-bet. And at this point, he had me covered by a lot. So I had 40 bigs.
So he was in the cutoff?
He was middle position. The cutoff flat.
Oh, okay. He was in middle position.
So the cutoff set up a squeeze for me.
Yeah.
And like before I even looked at my cards, I was like, man, this is a good spot for a squeeze. Mm-hmm. And then when I looked at my hand, I had ace-9 offsuit. I was like, man, this is a decent hand for a squeeze. But to me, it almost feels like, yeah, this is a good hand for a squeeze to people who fold to the squeeze. But what am I going to do if I get 4-bet? What am I going to do if he flats and then I c-bet? And he had enough chips and he was rampagey enough to where he wouldn't fold to the c-bet. So I'm thinking like, I feel like maybe this is a spot where if this guy 4-bets, maybe I'm supposed to 5-bet rip here. I don't know. And I know I wasn't capable of doing that, so I didn't even 3-bet.
Yeah, if he 4-bet, I would fold there. If he flats, then you go from there. But
right,
yeah, I wouldn't be able to 5-bet rip that.
Mike?
No, I wouldn't be 5-bet ripping there unless the guy was just totally. He would have to be ag off the map to be off. I mean, I definitely think you got to start trying to steal some pots for sure, especially if you want to get paid. But when you get a hand,
right?
But that's like not a spot. I thought you were going to say something along the lines where you 3-bet with pocket tens and he called, and then you got a 6-6-5 flop with 2 spades or something, and he check shoved and you folded with 20 bigs or something like that, where you an obvious spot where you needed to call against an aggressive player. So this was a spot which you recognized and you passed up on, but no, that wasn't. Yeah.
I mean that you know what, man, that has to be the spot. I mean, I know you can't win every tournament, but I'm thinking, other than this is the only spot that comes to mind to me. Where I didn't do something that I would do again 100% of the time. So like, when you bust a tournament, you think back through the hands, like what would I've done differently? This is the only spot where I see I could have done something differently. So maybe
Right.
this is the bust out hand. But I mean, in terms of not being short on day 2, this was the only spot where.
Right.
And so, like, I mean, maybe, but let me just, to kind of give you an idea. The original opener had Jack 2 suited, and the flatter had 5s.
Oh yeah, you're taking that down.
You
And the
think so?
5s may call. That Jack Deuce ain't doing anything, but if the 5s call, then you can always take it away on the flop.
I don't know if you played with this guy, Steve.
Really, Jack Deuce might be 4-betting?
Jack Deuce may 4-bet. Jack Deuce may call.
Really?
Like, I never saw this guy fold to a 3-bet.
I was going to say, I mean, it depends the villain. I mean, I'm probably never folding to the 3-bet, and if I'm at a certain 40 plus big blinds effective, I'm always flatting the 3-bet if I'm in position, and I'm never folding to the C-bet. I'm saying go ahead, put 3 bets in if you want. I mean, I shouldn't say never. I mean, the game flow, et cetera.
You mean if you're the villain or if you're Carlos?
If I'm the villain.
Oh.
I mean, even if he hasn't 3-bet all day, that doesn't mean that, okay, maybe he's got a premium hand, but, that also means that he's not a guy who's going to put all his chips in with a marginal hand. So
also, he knows how tight I've been playing, and this was the last level of day 1. So I didn't talk much at the table, so he didn't know anything about me, but I assume these guys will look at like the day 2 bubble as an opportunity to put pressure on people that aren't, splashing like they are. And at this point, like I said, I had 40. This guy maybe had like 160 bigs or better at a spot where the average was probably like 80 or 90.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this, like I said, this doesn't seem to be like a shining bright lights. This is a spot. I mean, if passing up an ace-9 was what's the hand you're regretting, you must have not had a lot of great hands this tournament. I don't think, other than a couple, obviously double up hands you had.
Right. The one other spot that I think back to was I had I'm not going to remember the run out, but I had an ace-king and on an ace-high board, and I bet twice on the guy, and I didn't bet the river on like a nasty run out. Cause I'm not going to say I didn't think I'd get called. I could definitely get called by worse aces, but if he raised at any point, I definitely would have folded. And it was almost like, let me just, take these birds in the hand as opposed to trying to go for this third one in the bush. Like, maybe
didn't get max value. You don't think?
Exactly. So there was one spot where I didn't get max value, and then there was this spot where I probably should have 3-bet and didn't.
Okay. Huh. Well, we got.
So how is I was
question.
Just okay. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
I was going to say we got a question from a listener. I copied and pasted it into your guys' Skype message there. So you can follow along. But first, a little shout out to Elliot Rowe for Poker Hypnosis. You can use it the next time before you play. Mike and I use it. The pros use it. And if you aren't using it, then you're pretty much handcuffing yourself. You can try it for free. Click
Steve,
on the link in the show notes.
don't get kinky here, Steve. Let's just
don't get kinky.
Okay.
Just read it out.
I don't want to hear about your handcuffs. Sorry.
Click on the link below. You can get a free MP3. Try it out for free. And if you do like what you hear and it works for you, then go to Elliot Rowe's site, pokermindcoach.com. Click on the link in the show notes at HeadsUpPoker.Poker, and you can use the coupon code HUPOKER and you'll get 10% off. Okay. All right. This is from Cliff Johnson. And he writes in and he says, quite often I find myself in a position to make a mathematically correct, quote, break-even call for all of my chips on either the flop or the turn. Perhaps not exactly break-even, but essentially break-even, plus or minus a few dollars. I often find myself making these calls since I have odds, but in reality, I think all I am doing is unnecessarily introducing variance into my game. Please note my opponents at these stakes are very rarely bluffing. They are generally attempting to protect their hand by blowing opponents out of the pot, and often willingly passing up a full expected value of their hand. Please note the above questions relates to calling situations when I am in a position to be the aggressor. I believe that shoving is clearly plus EV due to the added value of fold equity. Thanks for all you do. I definitely enjoy the podcast. Keep it up. Okay, what do you guys think about that? I'm getting the impression he's talking about cash games.
Yeah, this sounds like a cash game situation, and something that I had to really understand a couple years ago, where it seems like a lot of people don't understand this, is that the definition of break even means that it really doesn't matter if you do it or not. Like, if I offer you, let's flip a coin, and if it lands on heads, you win $1, and if it lands on heads, I win on tails, I win $1. Yeah, that's a break-even spot, and we could do it or we could not do it. It really doesn't matter. And so in a tournament, a lot of times I choose not to call in a lot of break-even spots because I want, like, I guess what I'm saying is break-even implies that there's no edge.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not trying to find zero equity spots. So I'll pass up on break-even spots in cash in tournaments because I'm looking for a much bigger edge. In cash games, your edges can be thinner, is provided that you have the proper bankroll for the game. So if it's a truly break-even spot, then again, it really doesn't matter what you do. But if it's slightly, like he says, essentially break-even, meaning that it could be plus or minus a few dollars. If it's plus a few dollars and you're confident in that and you have the bankroll, then you probably should take it. But if you're not sure, I don't necessarily think it matters either way. And probably like one of the best pieces of advice I've ever read on poker came from I think this is from Tommy Angelo, where he says, like, those close spots like this that worry us the most are the ones that matter the least.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like if you're passing up on a hugely positive spot, then that's a big mistake. If you're passing up on if you're taking a hugely negative spot, that's a big mistake. But if you have a close spot like this guy's describing, then it really doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing you can add here is this is do as I say, not as I do, because I never look at my hands afterwards and run them through the equity calculator. But this, like Carlos is saying, he wants to take a deeper look at the Queen 3 hand. These spots that you might say are neutral might be a little more one way or the other, and you want to break that down, right?
Yeah.
To look at it critically, and maybe, either way, it's not something to stress out, because if it's a tough spot, go either way. But just to try to break it down for when it comes up next, it might be really slightly plus EV or slightly negative EV.
Yeah, one thought I had on this when I read it was when I first started playing, I was extremely tight. And so when I would raise, people, would know that I had it, and they would pretty much call me perfectly because they would know that I'm playing a really tight range. When you do kind of put yourself in these break-even spots, if you have the bankroll for it, I think in the long run it could be a good thing, because even though you're like you said, Carlos, basically flipping a coin, your appearance is that of one that is much more aggressive and much more willing to gamble. And so it might get you action on your bigger hands later on when when you really do have the goods. So by calling and taking these quote unquote break even spots, you're influence the action of the future, where you can get more action when you have your big hands.
That's a good point. And it may work the opposite direction as well. Whereas if you're a super aggressive player, maybe you want to pass up on the break even spots so that you don't influence people to start properly adjusting to your aggression.
Yeah.
And so maybe, yeah. So I guess I love your point about if you're a tight player, taking those break-even spots kind of confuse people and make them think that you're more of an action player than you are. And I got some good advice one time, as far as that goes, in these like home cash games where, like, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but like a lot of times at the end of the night, they'll do like some little thing. I forget what they call it because I never do it, but it's like they like get dealt cards and they just flip them over. What do they call that?
Oh yeah, like one card nasty where you
something just, like it's basically
everyone puts
like
in $10 and they just deal out a hand randomly, and then
right.
whoever
It's like
wins,
no
wins.
skill involved. It's no skill. It's just like a 0 EV gamble.
Yeah,
and it's like I never do that, and I play tight, so they know that I'm a rock.
Yeah,
but like just participating in stuff like that where you're not really losing or gaining either way in the long run can, like, influence how gambly people think you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I didn't used to do stuff like that either, but I do. Well, I haven't played in a home game where they do that. But when they do that at the cash game table at the casino, everyone will throw in $5 just for fun and do stuff like that. I'm in every time just because in the long run it doesn't matter, and it only adds to that gambly image.
And the same thing applies to another thing that I never do, which is straddling. Like if everybody straddles, then it's not as bad as it sounds to you. I guess it's not as bad if everybody's doing it, because eventually, like, whatever equity you lose by doing it, especially like I'm meaning like the under the gun. I guess any straddle is a blind raise, blind raise. So right. I guess you're losing that. I guess you're losing something, regardless of the position you do it from. But if everybody's doing it, then you gain that back when the other people do it. So in that sense, it's another break-even spot that makes you look looser than you are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
If you got a bunch of smaller stacks sometimes at the straddling table, that changes, the dynamics of the game, the big blinds, because you essentially turned it into a 5-10 game rather than a 2-5 game. So, it changes maybe the range of hands you play. But yeah, should not change your EV.
Right.
But
right.
Can we go back to the Knitmobile, man? This is what I like talking about.
Okay.
When we go back to strategy.
Sounds good.
I will no longer question the Knitmobile, man. Every time I see you on Twitch, you're just happy as hell. I assume if we want an update, it's still absolutely no regrets, right?
About the Knitmobile, definitely not. But if you watch my last stream, you know what? Twitching makes me happy. That's what I realized, because when I fired up the camera to Twitch yesterday, I was not happy. I didn't even feel like twitching. But after like an hour doing it, I was back. I'm getting back to my normal self.
Right.
Good.
I got to say, the twitching is you're slowly, but you're up to what, 2,400, 2,500 followers here?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's harder to, I don't know if this is, I guess this is a good problem to have. It's harder to keep up with the chat, I noticed.
Yeah.
Because like it used to be, I think even a month ago, I check in, you'd have probably, 30 people average, and yesterday there was about 80, 90. I don't know if that was the high point, but and a lot of them are active, and a lot of them want to hear some stories and want your reaction to things, and it's kind of you're only one tabling anyways, but still.
Right. What throws me off is, like you said, the story. So, and I don't think other people on Twitch do it like I do. Somerville used to go on like these long, I think he called them like fireside chats or some shit like that. And he actually had like a fake fire behind him. But I'll go on these long stories, and when I'm telling these stories, I don't read the chat. So by the time I'm done with my rant, there's like 15 more questions now, and now I'll read about 5 of them, go quickly, and then like that 5th one sets me off on another rant, and then I just never catch up with chat.
Right.
High quality problem.
Yeah.
I'm having an image of Carlos as a Boy Scout leader, like in the campfire. Just like people are fucking terrible, boys. Just get in a van, family, everything. It's all horse shit. Just get in a van, try to be on your own, find something to do, play poker, drink, whatever it is. Like your hand slowly stoking the fire, looking off into the distance. I'm sorry. I had a very cinematic inspiration there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's got to be. And again, not just, because I like Carlos, but it is really a great Twitch stream for, first of all, if you want to know poker strategy, because Carlos is just, if you want to know how to crush the low stakes, it's just every decision, you take your time and you explain what you're doing. And it's really great for that. And again, the stories are, every time I think I know every little weird thing that's happened to you, it's like, Carlos was, I don't know if we want to get into it. You're like, oh yeah, the time somebody tried to kill me in high school, shooting at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I never fucking hear this before?
What? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta. We can't leave us hanging with that one. What happened there?
Some guy gave him a spoiled burrito and it was gunfire.
Yeah. So I think I was 15 at the time, and I had an older cousin who. He must be like 5 years older than me. So he was around 2021. And and I always have to qualify this because I'm from a rural town in Georgia. And so this guy, my older cousin, started saying that he was in a gang. And I always have to qualify that because the gangs that we had in rural Georgia were not the same thing as like real California gangs.
Right.
Okay.
And so he wanted to be in a gang.
If Suge Knight rolled into town, he would just grab a megaphone and he's like, you're all disgust me.
Right. Basically.
Enough with this chicken shit stuff. Go home and be with your parents.
Yeah. So my cousin was in a gang and I wanted to be with my cousin. So I said, hey, I'm in the gang too. The fact that you could just decide, hey, I'm in the gang and like there's no gang leadership that you have to consult with lets you know this shit wasn't real.
Yeah. Okay.
The initiation ritual was like, hey, can you go down to the corner store and get us all a Diet Right?
Right.
It wasn't.
So, I'm trying to follow behind him, and he had a friend who had just gotten out of jail that day, and like some other guys that he didn't like beat him up, that day. And so he started, it was like an old Western where like you go round up the posse.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy came, got my cousin and, some other guys, and they were going to go, jump on the guys that jumped on him. So I'm like, I'm down. So I go with the posse, and my little brother goes with me. I'm 15. He must have been 13 at the time.
Oh, jeez.
So we're all out walking around.
The guy that just got out of jail.
Right. And this guy, he must have been 17, 18. He was a little bit older than me. And so we're all walking around. And so we lived so imagine like a big, a street that's like on a hill. We lived like towards the middle of the hill, and the guys that we were looking for lived down at the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
So we walked down the bottom of the hill to their house. We don't see them. They're nowhere around. And so we start walking back up the hill. As we're walking up the hill, these guys ride past us in the car going down the hill. And so we're like, I think that was them. And so they go down like towards the bottom and like do a U-turn and come back up the hill and shoot at us.
Oh,
and
shit.
So, yeah. So, I forgot. I have another older cousin with us that was with us as well, who must have been like 23, 24 or something. But so now at this point, we're getting shot at in a drive-by. And so I'm running and I show this picture on stream. Like I actually took a picture of the intersection.
Right.
Once I started streaming. So all my story times have visual pictures to go with it. So I'm running next to this fence at this intersection, and I see bullets hitting the stop sign that I'm running towards. And I can just remember being so terrified and not wanting to stop running, but I had my little brother with me. So I wanted to at least make sure that he was okay too. And so I got around the corner of the fence, and right when I got next to the stop sign, I heard somebody yelling. So somebody got hit. And then I was like, man, I really hope that's not my little brother. And I'll never forget that moment of being paralyzed. It was so weird. I stopped running, but I was scared to turn around. It was I knew I didn't want to keep running in case that was my brother. I didn't want to leave him. But again, I was scared to turn around because I didn't want to turn around and see my brother shot.
Right.
It was so weird.
It's like the time Steve went into an Applebee's once and the bathroom was broken. He had nowhere to piss.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. He was frozen in terror. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I turn around and I see that it wasn't my brother. It was the guy who, at first I thought it was my older cousin, and I was like, fuck him. But it turns out that it was the guy who had just gotten out of jail.
Oh, okay.
So I grabbed my brother. I was like, fuck it, we getting out of here.
Yeah.
But by this time, it was a drive-by, so it lasted like maybe 5 seconds. And by this time, these guys pulled off. They're gone. So the danger's over. Yeah. And so at that point, I went back. There was like this house on the corner. And like the people who lived in this house let the guy sit on their porch waiting for the EMS to come. And like I went to the porch and he had his arm. He got shot 4 times in his arm.
Whoa.
And he had he like put his elbow and his arm like in his shirt, kind of like making a sling with his shirt. And like I looked and like his shirt was like full of blood. Not like somebody like spilled a drink. It's like somebody like poured a gallon of water into your shirt that's like a cupped section of your shirt. Yeah, I was like, man, that was like the craziest thing I ever seen. And like from that day forward, I was like, fuck all these guys, fuck this gang shit. This shit is stupid. We never gonna make no money. You
started your own gang called Math Nerds Who Don't Leave the House.
Right. Exactly.
You were the gang leader.
Yeah. So basically that is when my aversion to other humans started. It was around the time when one of these other humans, one of them who happened to have the same relatives as me, almost got me killed. That's when I was like, you know what? I think I'll do a lot better if I just live in a van and not communicate with other people.
Right.
And that's what I've been doing ever since. Now, I haven't been shot at in the past 20 years, so it's worked.
It's working,
right?
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that is a crazy story.
That is nuts, man. Well, I'm really glad it wasn't your brother or your cousin.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It sounds like the guy that deserved it most got it, I guess. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
In that sense, the universe has a twisted sense of humor.
Steve, I think you're missing the point of this story. It isn't about street justice being dealt out, but steering clear of problems.
You want to hear some street justice, though? No, this is street justice. The guy who shot at us, a couple months later, the guys that were shooting at us, it was like 4 or 5 of them, and they were cousins also. And they were later shooting at somebody else. And at this time, the other person that they were shooting at were in a car. And they're like trying to, drive the car and get away. And so you got 2 guys standing next to each other shooting at this car. And the one that did the shooting at us was standing in front. And his cousin shot him in the back of the head by mistake and killed him.
Oof.
And I think he was 17 when that happened.
Wow.
Man.
So, like, that type of shit is what really made me realize I got to get the fuck out of this place.
Yeah.
And, for a long time, I tried, like, a lot of different things to get out of there, as far as, like, I was always good in school. So that was always, the backup plan. But, that took a couple of years to finish that and college and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I was trying all kinds of like get rich quick shit, no money down, real estate. Like, I was getting involved in all this shit. And I remember one day watching TV and they said, all this get rich quick shit happens like on late night TV.
Sure.
And so I'm up like 1 o'clock or whatever one morning watching TV, and then I see something where
you see some fat Asian guy with 20 women on a boat, and you're like, "Whoa, what is this?"
Yeah,
that was the kind of stuff I was involved with. But the one thing I saw was like there was this shit on TV, and people were making money, and they said it was poker, but it was only 2 cards. I was like, what is this Texas shit? And I was like, maybe this is something. And then I heard that, one guy just made $2.5 million and his name was Moneymaker. I was like, man, this is another fucking scam. Like, who writes this shit? That was my first thought. I was like, who writes this shit? This is another scam. I'm not falling for this shit. And then, later I realized that it was a real thing. And, later signed up for Tournament Poker Edge and learned how to play it. And, that's what got me out of there. So I'm always thankful to you guys and those guys for that, because it wasn't looking good in the beginning.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, were you always kind of, I'm trying to think of a way not to speak of like sort of cliched like racial terms, but like a lot of the guys you grew up with, they wouldn't even be thinking of like, how do I get out to improve my life? Right. It's just like,
yeah.
How do I get this fucking guy out of my face? You know what I mean? Or how do I get enough money to buy this or that? And I mean, that's what I'm kind of like. I live like a day to day. It's like, ooh, boobs, hot dog. There's no long term plan. Obviously, I mean, this is kind of a unique quality you had. This is that you got to be grateful for. I don't know which
it is.
Family got that from, but
I don't know either, because nobody else in my family is like this. And what I basically say is, for some reason, and it's not just my family, just society in general. Very few people have the ability to learn from other people's mistakes. Like, they got to make the mistake firsthand, and then maybe they'll learn from it and maybe not. But very few people can see mistakes other people are doing and then not want to do it. So like,
yeah, that's a good point.
As for like alcohol, for example, I don't drink because everybody in my family were alcoholics. And same thing with, smoking and selling drugs and all the other shit. It's like I didn't have to try it myself to realize it was stupid. And a lot of the stuff that you mentioned was the same way. And but I guess the thing that kind of was the most helpful for me in terms of helping me realize that, another way was possible was A, school, and B, hip hop. I would listen to songs and learn things about life in songs that I was not getting from, growing up. Like my dad was not around, and my mom is kind of like a quiet person, or she's not gonna sit you down and have real meaningful conversations. A lot of that shit I had to learn on my own.
Right.
And I learned it through Tupac, for example. So yeah, just music and school were definitely the things that helped me discover that I didn't have to be like everybody else around me.
Now, that's interesting. Tupac would seem like someone who's celebrating making bad choices. But I guess I don't know if this was
that is definitely something that happened to him later in life.
Right.
But he was kind of he was in a similar situation where, first off, his mother was pregnant with him in prison because she was a Black Panther. And so, so he grew up around in that environment.
Right.
And he, so at one point, I guess at one point in his life, he lived in a bad neighborhood in Baltimore. And then they moved to his mom wanted to try to get him out of the area. So she put him in a good school on the other side of town. And he was acting in plays. I think he played some character in Raisin in the Sun and all that type of shit. So
right. Yeah, he went to an elite school, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Baltimore School of Performing Arts, I think was the name of it. And so he started out, trying to work his way out of, poverty in the same way through the arts. But I think for him, they finally, when they moved out to California, he started to realize that, it wasn't just this one bad neighborhood in Baltimore. Every city had a bad neighborhood where kids were, trapped. And so he kind of made it his mission to talk about, getting out of these horrible neighborhoods. And that was pretty much his mission until he got shot the first time. And that's when he was like, you know what, I remember a quote from him where he said, I tried to like teach people how to like improve their lives and show love and all the love that I gave out. At the end, somebody still shot me. So now I'm switching. Fear is stronger than love. So now I'm going to make everybody fear me because that's stronger than love. And that's when he got with Suge Knight. And that's when everything fell apart for him.
Right.
So I think
I got to, it's funny. I mean, I'm like 10 years older than you. So me and my buddies were in like rap music from like the beginning. Whenever LL Cool J cut his first, Run DMC and all that stuff. And it was right around when Tupac came where, I think this was just, I was in college then and, all my buddies were listening to Pink Floyd and, but now this was the point where, white rappers were getting thrown out of windows. And so like Tupac came and I still don't find him very pleasing to the ear for some reason, but I just kind of assumed this was where like the thuggery had reached such a comical point, which it was kind of hard to take maybe the music as seriously as, yeah. And then like, well, Tupac one of the times he got shot, like he's barely alive and he got out of the hospital because he said he didn't want the cops to kill him.
Yeah, that was the first time he got shot.
That's just silly. He's shot by like another black gangster, and he's worried about the police, or so he says. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I think he was just paranoid in general of everybody.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was specifically the cops, but I know that he and a lot of other people have a paranoia about, and a lot of it is not fake. Okay. About, being targeted by, how can I put this without sounding like a conspiracy theorist?
No, however you want to put it.
I can't think of another way to put it, but basically like, are you guys familiar with COINTELPRO?
No.
It's basically like an FBI program that, J. Edgar Hoover, instituted to try to get rid of, Martin Luther King.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so like I hadn't heard a quote where Tupac said, "I'm paranoid of the police killing me," but if he did say that, I'm assuming it was less about like the local police in that town and more like some covert government operations.
The forces. Okay, I got you. I just remember at the time thinking he got shot and he wanted to get out of the hospital to get back to the street, and I was like, this seems counterintuitive.
Right. But he was worried about being poisoned in the hospital, and he was also worried about like you said, the people who actually shot him, coming to the hospital to finish the job. So he was trying to get the hell out of town. But fortunately, my life is boring enough where I don't have to deal with that type of shit.
Yeah,
but
ours too.
But what I mean is like the stuff I've learned from him was just like there's certain lines in songs that definitely I can remember that to this day impact how I live my life. And so I can remember my dad not being around. And Tupac's dad was not around, and he had a song where he used the line, "That's why I'll never be a father. Unless you got the time, it's a crime to even bother." And like, as funny as that sounds, like there's this one line that I heard in a rap song 15, 20 years ago. It is the reason why I don't have kids, because I know that I would not, that is like way more responsibility than I'm ready to handle. So, but that's not something I could sit down and talk to my mom about, or, we talk about more gossipy type stuff or, like not deep, emotional conversations. Like that shit just didn't happen in my family, but I got a lot of that from Tupac's music.
Yeah, I'll never be a father either. I just have too much stuff I want to do, and having kids would drastically impact that, and make it not happen. I like traveling. I like being.
If I may speak on behalf of the human race, I think we're all grateful that you two are very introspective in this matter.
I think
you guys are about as goddamn useless as it can possibly be.
For me, this is what I realized. Yeah, part of it is me wanting, that freedom that comes with not having responsibilities. But the other part is me knowing how controlling I am. Like, if I had a kid, I would ruin his life because I would be like the biggest helicopter dad, and like I would try to create like a mini me, and that wouldn't be good. So like, because I know that, I don't, this is, even though this is my child, this is like a completely separate human being for me with his own, faults and own, aspirations. And like, I'm afraid that I would not be okay with that. And so I'm just not gonna, like, for example, I don't do drugs. And if I had a kid that grew up and decided he wanted to do drugs, that would fucking destroy me. And so, but, if that's something they want to do, at the end of the day, they're a human being. They get to choose their own choices. So I'm just not going to put myself in that situation.
Yeah, it's not easy being a father.
Right. It's the hardest job in the world. And I commend anybody that's able to do it well. I just feel like I'm not qualified for that job.
Have you gotten fixed?
Say what now?
Have you gotten fixed?
Yep.
Okay, me too. Me too. Me too. Wasn't it such a relief when you had it done?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for me too. I felt like this giant weight had been lifted off my shoulders that had been there forever, and I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's it. And I just add, it's kind of funny where Carlos is immediately thinking about being a father to a son. Like, I have this conversation with my brother all the time. I'm like, dude, it's easy with daughters. You just love them and provide for them, which is probably not true. But fathers, for a son, you're supposed to be like kind of giving them a way to live.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any advice on that.
That's my problem. I'm kind of fucked up. So I don't want to fuck up somebody else. Like, for example, I know I know I'm weird, and I know like my outlook on life is like completely outside of the box, but it works for me. And all I would know how to do is teach somebody else to be that same way. And so, but not like, what if my kid doesn't want to live in a van? I gotta allow him. Like, what if he wants to, like,
There's at least a 3% chance he doesn't want to live in a van. Let's say, yeah.
At least.
Maybe he wants to, like, say, screw Nick Cass and let me spend every penny I own on some mansion and, expensive car with high interest.
Right.
And I'm thinking, with friends, that's the difference, man. Like, with friends, I can, like, kind of say, hey, I wouldn't do that if I was you, but it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be a whole lot of sweat off my back. But if like my kid did that, it would destroy me and him because I would be like super, super controlling. Like, and that's basically why I live in a van, because I want to control,
right,
my environment. And I can do that with like, when I don't have like a ton of bills, I'm in more control than I was when I was working, making a lot of money, but still living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Yeah. So that everything that you see me do is a manifestation of my control issues. That's why I don't drink, because I don't want to be out of control and drunk.
That's interesting.
Do you ever? I mean, of course, pot is really huge amongst the poker players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you got some buddies who get high all the time. You ever show up at the circuit stop and everyone's getting high, and you're like, do you not even sit in the room when this is going on?
Dude, at this trip, I was playing my sit and go. While you sign up for the sit and go, you sit down, you wait for other people to show up to play, and while we're sitting around waiting, the conversation at the table, like everybody started having this conversation about what their favorite drug was. And they were all like, oh, but yeah, have you tried the new promethazine? And I was like, they fucking talking about this shit like it was like, a new flavor of M&M or something. And it is fucking drugs. They all talking about, oh, but yeah, I heard he had some good meth. And I'm thinking, man, let me, that's why I wear shades and headphones. And that's why I don't like live poker. And again, not knocking anybody who chooses to do that shit. And not even knocking the fact that they have a conversation about it. I just hate the fact that I have to be a party to that conversation.
I can't believe they could physically play poker on meth.
Man, it's I mean, amazing. Like some of the drugs, they were like, some of them were like prescribed, like drugs that people get prescribed for like ADHD
and stuff like that.
Like, yeah, stuff like that. And like they were talking about it with such enthusiasm that I was like, damn, this don't even sound like medicine. It sounds like candy the way they talk about it.
Yeah.
And so like that was one situation that is true that I thought was pretty funny. And another one was a well-known poker player who I personally don't know, but I know of him. I've seen him on TV. Follows me on Twitter just out the blue. And so I follow him back, and he hits me up on DM and says, hey, somebody told me you know where to get some weed. And I thought that shit was funny as hell. I was like everybody that knows me knows I don't smoke weed. And I thought that shit was hilarious. I was like, somebody must be playing a practical joke on me.
I just assumed you were high all the time, but now, okay. This is how your mind normally works. Okay.
Yeah, no, when I first met you, I thought, oh, he smokes weed for sure. No, I was wrong.
I will say this though. The people, like when you say you first met me, I can see that. I definitely have like weed. How can I say this? Weedy eyes.
Yeah, like the little puppy dog, kind of like half asleep. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know what I can remember going to the eye doctor, and like they do the little test where they do the little puff of air in your eye.
Yeah.
And they would say, open your eyes wide. And like, I literally cannot open my eyes any wider than they always are. I don't know what the fuck wrong with my eyelids, but yeah, a lot of people like if you ever see my driver's license, it looked like I drove that drunk to get my license. So yeah, I definitely understand what you mean about when you first met me, but people that I've, spent a lot of time with in person and had like those type of conversations with, or people who tried to offer me drinks or weed or whatever, they know that I never take that stuff. So one of those people must have thought it was funny to tell this guy I knew where the weed was at, because I definitely do not. And if I did, I wouldn't know in Cherokee, North Carolina.
Yeah.
If we go back to my hometown, maybe I can hook you up with somebody, but not up here in the South Carolina hills.
Maybe we got to get some TPE guys to slip a Mickey into his milkshake this summer, but no, that would not be nice.
No, that would be really bad for everybody involved.
It's kind of not to have a long discussion about Carlos's eyes, but the first time I met you, I noticed, like, I think you only blinked for the first minute and a half we had a conversation. I'm like, this guy's got a fucking poker face. He doesn't want to blink to make sure I'm I don't know if I'm bluffing or reaching for his wallet or whatever. It's got to.
See, that's why you're really good at live poker, because nobody else is that observant. Like, you probably like when somebody's bluffing, you're counting like how many times they're blinking. Like, oh, he blinks when he bluffs 20 times. He bluffs when he blinks 20 times, but not when he blinks 10 times. Like, who that was like 2 years ago, right?
I remember thinking it at the time. I don't know if it was, I don't do that at the table. I don't know if it's a self-conscious, but it was kind of interesting. You just have a conversation. A lot of people don't. It's a natural human instinct not to want to lock eyes with someone because it's a sign of whatever, but it was like, I remember we just have a conversation, just staring straight ahead and just not blinking at all.
You remember that from 2 years ago? That's crazy to me. 'Cause I had no idea. It's not like something I was doing on purpose.
Has anyone ever told you that before? That you like blink less than other people, or no? Is that
No, like other people are not sociopaths, so they're not paying that type of to me. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Only Rampage would notice that.
Okay.
Oh man, we should probably wrap this up, guys. I gotta go.
What?
But, yes,
I can't leave it on the sociopath comment. I got to get even with this dude somehow. Another Welch victory over me, man. TKO.
Carlos 1, Mike 0.
But you guys got to, if anyone hasn't checked out Carlos on Twitch, it really is interesting there, the life in, when he starts talking about rap music too, that's when he starts moving into all sorts of getting philosophical, and it's pretty good stuff.
Yep. Yeah. It really good Twitch stream. We'll put a link in the show notes, Carlos.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted us to plug?
Plug? No, but I will say, like Mike was talking about, the crazy stuff I talk about on stream. I'm getting older and I'm getting fatter, and I'm trying to do something about one of those things. And this last stream, I think I've decided I want to be a health nut. So
Really?
yeah, I'm trying to go straight raw food. I got a friend that's currently going through cancer, and just seeing how much that stuff affects people and knowing how much of it is preventable just through diet. And so now, this is another example of me trying to learn from other people's mistakes and my past mistakes. And yeah, that was the last stream, was me talking a lot about trying to eat more fruits and vegetables and stop taking shit lightly, because I don't think I have too many more chances in terms of the joke I said on stream, which was kind of a joke, but really it makes sense. Nobody knows what that last cookie tastes like or feels like right before you get diabetes. And I feel like I've probably been to that line more times than I should have been.
Right.
So I'm running out of second and third chances. So this time next year, I'm going to be a fucking health nut tree hugger probably.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Carlos the hippie. I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
So-
that's what.
So if anyone sees Carlos in Vegas eating a Kit Kat bar, you have your permission to tackle you and put a fistful of broccoli in your hand.
Yeah.
Just shove a carrot
You
down your
do.
throat.
If you know what? This is what I need, because I'm addicted to that shit. If you see me eating some shit like that, remind me that I said this, and I will throw it away.
I had a wake up call a couple about a week ago. A close friend of mine died. One of the guys at work, and he was only 48, dropped dead from a brain aneurysm. And it was his mental state of mind more than it was. I mean, he ate healthy. He ran every day. I mean, he was a health nut. But he was always so stressed and high strung on things that, most of us would not worry about. And, it was strange. He helped my wife and I move. And I ordered pizza and beer for everyone, as like a thank you. And everyone kind of sat around, had a couple of pieces of pizza, and they left. And he and I had had some time in the garage. We probably drank beer for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. It was kind of getting to the point to where I'm like, I kind of have some stuff to do. I got to take the moving truck back. I got to do all this stuff. And after that was the last time I saw him. And it was, it was tough. But my wife was saying, she's like, you know what? Maybe that was kind of the universe's way of like you and him getting to say goodbye. It was because he hung around for a while, and you did too, and you got to share a beer together, and that was it. But yeah, it's not just the food too. I mean, it's the mental state of mind as well. I know that's what did it.
That's
he
true.
was too high strung, but you don't strike me as that at all.
No, I'm okay on the stress. I'm okay on the stress side because I don't have any kids.
Yes.
But
You're coming around. So you're also probably coming around to Steve's viewpoint that water and not just Dr. Pepper is probably good for the system too, right?
yeah, I'm definitely drinking more water and just basically, the fruit, man, the shit. Like, I don't want to get. I'll be on the soapbox if I get started with this. But basically, if you just eat right in terms of food fruit and vegetables as like the majority of your food, you don't have as many of these health problems that we're starting to just assume is like normal aging process.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, we should probably wrap it up. I got to get going, but TPE, if you guys want to get better at poker and join a training site, and if tournaments are your game, definitely head over to HeadsUpPoker.Poker, click on the TPE link.
Especially good for men who've had vasectomies, because you got some free time on your hands. There's a lot of videos there.
Mike's not quite there yet, but hopefully we can convince him. But the three of us are part of the site. A lot of good videos. The best site out there as far as tournaments go. If you want to get better at cash games, it's not the place. But as far as tournaments, that's where you should go. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming in, Carlos. It's been fun, entertaining.
Thank you.
And here is your weekly motivational speech.
One idea can change your life. One idea can turn your life around. And as you convince you, as you sell yourself, every day, something happens for you. It will enable you to transcend yourself wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Do it with everything that you have. Develop the habit of giving more than what you're paid for. If there's something that you want and you're hungry for it, you've got to do whatever is necessary until. And when you give the best you can and that's not enough, you must do what is required. When you're hungry, you don't care about the facts. You don't care about the odds.